and welcome to Small Screen Cinema with Tabitha and Dad as we look at the movies from yesterday, the TV movies that get overlooked. Some classics, some trash hits, and a whole lot of in between. Tabitha, what movie are we going to do today?
We are covering A Cry in the Wilderness from 1974 today. A Cry in the Wilderness is based on a story by Gilbert Wright. The original story was called Madman's Chain, which is a more accurate title, but Cry in the Wilderness sounds cooler. Wright died in 1966, 8 years before this came out.
Oh, man.
Bummer, yeah. He had a pretty short filmography. He's credited with westerns like Whispering Smith Speaks, The Californian, and Utah. And these are mostly from the 30s and 40s. I couldn't find much about him, unfortunately, but seems like he was mostly a novelist. But he did write some screenplays based on his work.
Okay.
The actual teleplay was co-written by husband and wife team Stephen and Eleanor Karpf. They worked on a lot of telefilms like Gargoyles, Sandcastles, and Terror in the Sky. They also worked on TV shows like General Hospital and Kung Fu. They created the CBS soap opera called Capital that ran from 1982 to 1987. Eleanor passed away in 2013 at age 73. Uh, Stephen does not have a date of death on IMDb, so I guess he's still with us. Good for him.
How lonely
Oh,
to,
for no,
to outlive your spouse for that long. You
well,
know,
not if you're a man.
gosh, come on.
Sorry. This film was directed by Gordon Hessler, and we just talked about him a couple of weeks ago because he directed Hitchhike.
Exclamation point. Yeah.
Yes. This film stars George Kennedy as Sam Hadley. He was in Cool Hand Luke. He is in all four airport movies. He's like the only connective tissue besides airplanes. And most importantly, he was in the Naked Gun movies.
He was also in the last one or two seasons of Dallas
Oh, okay. Oh, yep, I
and
have that written down next.
the wonderful disaster movie Earthquake.
Yeah, Earthquake's not like the best of those. He was in Creepshow 2, Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, and Tick Tick Tick. He had a great career. He passed away in 2016 at age 91. It also stars Joanna Pettit as Delta Hadley, and she was a working actress throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s. She worked on Knots Landings, The Love Boat, Knight Rider, and Policewoman. She did other TV movies like Pioneer Woman, The Weekend Nun, and Heaven Only Knows. She's also in what might be the most famous Night Gallery segment, The Caterpillar. If you know, you know. Um, but she's also in my personal favorite Night Gallery segment, The House, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but the vibes are just immaculate. She also did the miniseries Captains and Kings, which was also written by the Carps. And Pettit is still with us today.
Now, did she retire from acting relatively young?
I mean, she was working through the 80s, so I guess that would have put her in her 40s, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
because I'm thinking I've not seen her. I've seen her in other stuff, but it's all been like older stuff, and then she was just like gone, you know? Well, I don't know. When I started researching this, I thought, huh, she kind of just dropped off the map. Hmm.
Yeah,
Anyway,
maybe she did retire and pivoted to something else. I'm not sure. Then we have Lee Montgomery as Gus Hadley, who also had a very cool career. He was the son in Burnt Offerings.
yes, one of my favorites.
Yes, he was the teen heartthrob lead in Girls Just Want to Have Fun, and he was the star of Ben, sequel to Willard,
Yes.
which I have not seen the original, but you made me go see that weird ass remake
Well,
with
it had
Crispin
Crispin
Glover.
Glover, so it's going to be weird.
Fair enough. He was also on shows like Emergency, Streets of San Francisco, Columbo, The Mod Squad, Family Ties, and Chips. And Montgomery is still with us today. Oh my goodness, excuse me. Um, we don't really have any other main characters, but the only other actor who got an opening credit was Colin Wilcox Paxton as Bess Millard, and she was in movies like To Kill a Mockingbird, Catch 22, and Jaws 2, the second best Jaws. And she was on like every show in the 60s, kept working through the 70s on Little House on the Prairie, Moving On, Quincy, and Cannon. She passed away in 2009 at 74. A Cry in the Wilderness aired on ABC March 26, 1974. On CBS, it ran against Hawaii Five-O and the TV movie Big Rose Double Trouble. And on NBC, it ran against the short-lived drama Tenafly. And with that, let's get into the movie. So we start out on a very rural piece of property with Dad Sam and son Gus clearing away some tree stumps. They successfully pull one out. The son, he's what, 12-ish, I guess.
Yeah.
He's driving the pickup truck, and Dad's kind of pushing as he's pulling with the truck. And Gus wants to do more, and Sam agrees. So they're going to keep working. And then Mom Delta comes out and chastises Sam for letting Gus drive. Sam says he's been teaching him for the last month, and it's safe around here since there's hardly any people, let alone any other vehicles. Delta remarks that Gus is growing up very fast, and Sam says the boy will grow just as fast as you let him. Delta is not a fan of their truck, saying it only runs when it wants to. She wants to trade it in. Sam is not having that, and she says he gets too attached to things. Sam teases her about being a city girl, but she's learning how to make homemade jellies, so good for her. And he worries about her being so far away from other people, and she says, oh, she'll be fine. She loves it there, and maybe soon they'll have another baby. To which Sam's like, yeah, let's have sex right now. That's what you said, right? And
Turn
Delta's
around,
like,
son.
no, get off me. Delta's like, no. She goes back
Wait,
inside. The
wait, wait
boys
a
get
minute.
back to work. Mm,
In the grand scope of this movie, which you're going to unfold, that would have been the least traumatizing thing he would have saw was his parents having
probably, yeah.
sex.
And I gotta say, they don't have a lot of scenes together in this movie, but I actually do buy their relationship, which is important because, George Kennedy and then Joanna Pettit doesn't quite look right, but I think they make it work.
Yeah, George was a big guy and he's
Hmm.
naturally blonde, kind of white-haired. So even in his earlier roles, like the Cool Hand Luke, he always looked older than what he was.
Yeah.
So at first I thought, oh gosh, man, he's got like 15 years on. No, it's not. That's George Kennedy. That's the way he looks. So
Yeah. So they start to work on another tree stump, but unfortunately, as Sam is digging around underneath one of them, he gets bitten by a skunk, which also sprays them both. The skunk runs off, and yes,
okay, that was completely unbelievable, and I'll tell you why. First of all, correct. Skunks are one of the primary carrier of rabies. So, yes. And if you disturb one, you will get bitten. However, they are not going to leap up and bite you on the neck like they're a vampire.
yeah, it would have made more sense if it got him like on the wrist or something. Well,
On the
because he
finger
had
or
his hand
something.
in there.
But yeah,
Yeah, it's that
no, I'm not going to
it's
bite the hand. I'm going to go straight for the jugular.
it's a flying skunk, I guess, and yeah. They Sam doesn't think much of it. He just gets the kid in the tomato juice bath to get rid of the smell. And then we get our opening credits, and it is a couple of weeks later in the middle of the night. Sam seems troubled. He gets out of bed. He opens up a first aid book, looks through it before heading towards the barn. He grabs a chain and a lock and locks himself to a very sturdy pillar in the center of the barn. The next morning, Delta and Gus find him there with a barrier drawn all the way around him in the dirt and orders them to stay on the other side so he can't reach them. And they're like, what is going on? If this is a joke, it's not very funny. He tells them that the skunk that bit him a couple of weeks ago was rabid. He didn't realize it, but he found it in the barn the night before, frothing at the mouth. And he knows it was the same skunk because it was missing its hind leg.
Okay,
Um,
couple things here. As we learned last week, I did pest control, and I actually managed the wildlife division for the last couple of years when I did pest control. Skunks are very easy to catch. You just, it's picking them up once they're in a cage that's difficult. But if you approach them properly, they're not going to spray you because the skunk only has one predator, and that's a bird. That's a bird of prey, like a hawk. And so if you come at them from their level, they're not going to spray you. Okay. So my issue with this is he knew skunks carried rabies. He waited a few weeks, and we'll get into why he knows that about rabies later on in the movie. But I'm thinking, you live in the middle of freaking nowhere. As soon as you got bit, you come on, wife, kid, we're going into the city because I got bit by a skunk. So I was like, because I thought it was that night he was, chaining himself and digging the trench and everything. And then find out later, it's a couple weeks later, you've been standing around with a skunk bite for a couple of weeks. But anyway, go ahead.
no, that's fair. But if he did that, there would be no movie. So I guess
Oh
he
gosh,
had to, he had to be stupid.
there's a hole in my logic.
But
So
you're no, you're right. If I get bit by any kind of a wild animal, I'm going straight to the hospital, you know? But I don't know. I guess he just maybe he'd been bitten by skunks before and it was fine. I don't know. Um, so Delta is trying to think of other options besides this, and she says, "Well, let's go. We'll take you to the doctor." And um he gives her the book and tells her to look at the symptoms, that the incubation period starts at 10 days, but when it starts a little earlier if you're bit on the head and neck. And the symptoms describe going violently crazy and a fear of water. Hence, it used to be called hydrophobia, which is how they referred to it in Old Yeller. Rest in
oh,
peace, Old Yeller.
I
Yeah,
did not know that.
yeah.
But one thing I did know is that um I don't know why he was chaining himself because it's not like you become rabid animals are not on the attack. They're irritable. So if you get too close and bother them, that's when they will bite you. But if you
Mm-hmm.
just see a rabid squirrel or something running across the golf course like me and a friend did once, just stay away from it. They're like I said, it's not that they go crazy and start biting everything like in Cujo. What happens is they get irritable, and he talks about that. The Simpsons talk about that. But as a human
Mm-hmm.
being, he's not going to lose his brain, and he's not going to go biting his wife and kids. So I don't know why he was so concerned about them.
That's what I thought. I'm like, you're going to turn into like Michael Myers all of a sudden, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor, but I don't think that's how that works. Because he's like, no, not. I'm not getting in the truck either by myself or with you guys in case it comes over me. My favorite was if it comes over me while I'm alone in the truck, I might turn around and drive back here and kill you guys. I'm like, well, that seems unlikely, but okay. So his plan is for her to take the truck, go for help, leave Gus there to take care of the livestock they have, and he said he when he was a kid he saw a hired hand go through this chain just like this, so he knows this is the correct way to handle the situation.
And that's another thing.
He
He got bit
draws
by a
some
skunk,
yeah.
having known someone who had been rabid before, bitten by, and he just thought, oh, well, it's probably not going to happen to me. So he waits a couple of weeks.
He's stupid. I don't know what to tell you. He draws some directions, air quotes, in the dirt for her to get to this farm that's 40 miles away. Oh my God.
Yeah, they're in the middle of
Like he doesn't
nowhere.
even want her to go to town. Yeah, apparently town is too far. The closest she can get to help is the farm that's 40 miles away. He's like, they will have a phone. To which I said, you don't even have a phone? They could have at least said their phone is out. Out. You're out of your mind if you think I'm living somewhere where A, you can't get help quickly in case of emergency like this, B, without a phone, and C, we've established their truck doesn't work very well. These people are dumb. Dumb people. And then he says, honey, I love you, but you're wasting time. So she hugs Gus goodbye and hits the road. At this point, I should mention there is a little creek just outside of the barn that he can see from the window. And it's got a pole with measurements on it to measure the depth of the water. So Gus goes back into the barn and asks Sam what happened to the hired hand who got sick. And Sam's like, oh, he was totally fine. We sent him to live on another farm where he could run free all day. And then Gus brings Sam lunch consisting of beans and toast. And I'm like, what are you, British? That's disgusting. Beans and toast. Come on. That's not why we fought the American Revolution, to eat beans and toast. Sam says we have to lay down some ground rules. Then he says something that really disturbed me. He said, you'll feed me and yourself 3 times a day. And I'm like, a day? How many days are you expecting Delta to be gone? Did you move to smack dab in the middle of the Australian outback? Where are you?
Okay, now let's put this in perspective. He's been bitten by a skunk. He has chained himself to a pole. He's dug a trench, a circle around, and has told his son and his wife, don't get on this other side, or I might just bite you or whatever. I don't know. Um, s- Sends mom off in a bad truck where she has absolutely no idea where she's going because she wasn't familiar with this area. She moved from Chicago. This was something he was familiar with. So,
Yes.
and then you've got this 12-year-old kid who thinks his rabid dad is dying in there, told you can't get close to him. And he told his son, no matter what I say, don't let me loose. No matter what I say, because I will lie to you. I will do anything to be set free. Don't believe me. So you've
Yeah.
put all this trauma on this 12-year-old kid, on your wife who doesn't know where you're going. And I'm thinking, geez, oh, Beazle, George Kennedy, you've got to be better than this in life.
Yeah, if I were the mom, I'd be like, the kid's coming with me. I'm sorry about the chickens, but the kid is coming with me. Sorry, you know? Um, anyway, yeah, as you were saying, he says, never cross this line. Wait till I'm as far away as possible. Put the tray of food on the line and then back away. And then I will come get the food. He really hammers home how horrible this is. He says, don't think of me as your father. Just think of me as someone who's sick. It's just it's so sad for this kid. It's like, what? I mean, I guess it's not as bad as Oliver Reed trying to drown him and burn offerings, but still,
That poor
bad
kid.
parents. It's a
No
movie.
wonder he took girls just want to have
He
fun.
really goes through it,
I've been traumatized.
right? He's like, I just want to have fun too.
You know, I think if this was us, and I would let you bring the food right up to the line, then I'd go over just to scare you.
Yeah.
Uh, And then I
That's
say,
because you're a
don't tell your
horrible
mom, she'll
person.
kill me.
No, you would have just said, I think I got bit by a rabid skunk. And mom's like, well, I'll get the shotgun. Sorry. Like, wait. You're like, nope, it's better this way. Sorry. Um, so on the road, Delta turns left, which they specifically told her not to do because, women drivers. And it's not that it really matters because the truck immediately breaks down. So she spots a hunter far in the distance and tries to flag him down, but he just thinks she's waving and is like, yeah, hi. And then he literally vanishes. Like she runs up to the ridge and looks down and he's gone. So
Yeah, I didn't know if they were trying to
I don't know if
imply
he
that
ran
that
away
was
from her or what.
a mirage or what, you know?
That's what I was wondering. I'm like, was that a real person or I don't know. Anyway, she goes back to the truck and luckily it turns on, so it's still working again for the time being. Back at the farm, Sam watches Gus feed the chickens, which I feel like he could have done on his own. It's not that far away, but whatever. And um, he says, "This is the second time you fed the chickens." I'm like, "Well, yeah, this kid is terrified. He doesn't know what to do." So Sam tells Gus to go get his school book so, they can keep up with his studies. And he's happy to have some normalcy, so he runs off and gets them. He comes back, doesn't want to do his math because it's hard, which, so true,
I
especially the
agree.
reading problems. God, stupid word problems. The day I finished my last math final in college, I was so happy. It was a kind of freedom I had never known before. Like, I got a C, but you know what C students do? They pass. So, whatever. Um, they start chatting about how Gus loves the farm and never wants to leave it. And Sam says, well, you felt that way about Chicago before we left. And Gus says, yeah, but I was little then, which I thought was cute because they've only been out there a month. But it's such a kid thing to say. Oh, that's when I was little or when I was a kid, because they always think they're grown. Um, Gus says, well, I know how to drive the pickup, and that's all the education I need. And I have several relatives that feel the same way. Sam tells him, no, education is important. So, and I thought this was cute. He came up with his own word problems by applying it to the farm business, the calves and feed. And Gus works on the problem and says, we'll end up with $500. We'll be rich, which is also a very kid thing to say,
Oh yeah.
just no concept of money. Like, oh, wow, $500. I'm set for life. So this is a nice scene between father and son, which we need because later Gus brings out some blankets for Sam because it might get cold that night. But he doesn't follow the rules. So, like any good parent, Sam wallops him across the face as hard as he can. Like, damn, dude. And if that's supposed to be a symptom, which I don't think it is, but I just feel like if you're that symptomatic, it's probably too late, Mom might as well come back.
So so Sam went in
But
and brought back a shotgun and said, "Bye, Dad."
it was so sad. The kid's like, "You never hit me before," and he's like, "Well, I had to teach you." And poor Gus runs away inside, and it really reminded me of way back when we covered "You'll Never See Me Again" when he hits his wife, and he's like, "Well, honey, you weren't listening to me. I had to hit you." Meanwhile, Delta finally makes it to a house where an old woman is sitting on her roof. She says if Delta has come to evacuate her, she is wasting her time. She's been through floods before and she just waits it out on her roof in her rocking chair. Delta doesn't know anything about a flood. The woman says, "Oh, it's been on the radio all morning. 3 towns have already been washed out." Because apparently the Hadley farm and the Hadley truck don't have a radio either. No phone, no radio, barely functioning vehicle. What are they supposed to do all day?
They read that little medical first aid book all day long.
It says right here, chain yourself to pole if bitten by skunk.
There you go.
So the woman offers her the use of her phone, but unfortunately, it's dead. Delta asks if there's any other farms around. Sure, there's the Millards about 30 more miles down the highway. And Delta says, well, I'm almost out of gas, which also made me wonder where are they getting gas? Because they have to drive at least 40 miles to get to town. So it just hardly seems like it's worth it to go get gas, for your vehicle. But
Well,
whatever.
um, farm people generally have a big, uh, like 300-gallon tank, and
Okay.
a company will come in and fill that up, and then you get your gas for your vehicles from that. My uncle Mike and Aunt Shirley lived on a farm when I was growing up, and they had one of those for their stuff.
Okay. Fair
And
enough. That makes
and I
sense.
remember once it didn't have an automatic shut off. My uncle Mike is filling up his car, and I said, "How do you know when it's done if it doesn't shut off?" He said, "My feet get wet."
Oh my God. Okay. So the woman does let her siphon off some of her gas so she can fill up the tank. And I just want to say this is the first and last decent person Delta will run into on her little adventure here. So back in the barn, this part was funny. Sam dreams slash hallucinates another attack skunk. When it lunges at him, you can just tell it's a stuffed skunk that they're moving around. And it really reminded me of that scene in Ed Wood when he's telling Bela Lugosi, "Oh, just move him around, move the octopus around." Oh, so funny! I'm like, you should have cut that scene. Come on, you guys. And this is when Sam first notices the water level. It's gone down in the creek. I'm sorry, the crick. They call it the crick. I'm like, stop it! You've been living in Chicago. Stop saying crick. He calls for Gus, and even after he got smacked, the poor kid obeys him. And Gus is like, "Oh, you're scared of the water like you said you would be." And this is when Sam starts to realize, "Ah, shit. I may have put myself in a corner here." Sam says he knows that this time of year the water should be up, not down. That means there's got to be a blockage upstream, some like a natural blockage. He tells Gus that he has to let him go. And well, Gus isn't going to do that. Sam told him not to listen to anything he said. Like, he even said he would lie to him to get him to let him free. So Gus is like, no. Plus, he's already hit him. So he's like, okay, if you won't let me go, then you have to go upstream and check for blockage. So he does. Um, and he says he walks at least 5 miles upstream and he doesn't see anything. And Sam's like, no, well then it's got to be further up. You're gonna have to let me go. And Gus is like, you said the water would bother you, and now it's bothering you. And Sam doesn't really have a reply to that because, yeah, that is what he told him. So they're at an impasse here.
Well, at one time during that exchange, he tells, "I went about 5 miles." Then you need to go 10 or 20. I'm thinking, yeah, kid, go get lost in the desert. There you go.
Right, right.
Maybe you'll find your mom wandering around too, because the truck sucks.
Right? Yeah, speaking of, back on the road, the truck dies again, and she walks the rest of the way to the Millards farm, a severely miserable couple who I really hope died in the flood. The wife, Bess, opens the door and immediately hates her because she's pretty and a city girl. And that, no, I'm serious. I'm not making that up. She gives her this look like, oh, you're one of them hoity toity city women who thinks you're better than me. I and my husband and whatnot. Um,
Now, at this time, this is the second house she's been to and announced, if I don't get medical help for my husband, he's gonna die. And they just like, oh, well, there's a flood coming. Uh,
oh yeah,
well,
nobody cares.
Yeah, there's no,
Nobody cares.
yeah. And
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
even if there was a flood coming, I would say, oh my gosh, I would try to do something. I would try to help, but they, well,
yes, do something. Yeah. Her husband says, "Oh, we can't leave a pretty girl in distress, but do not give him any credit. We will get back to him later." Um, Bess says the phone isn't working and they will not give her a ride into Well Rock, the nearest town. And Delta begs them, like you said, explains the situation, and this bitch is just like, "Sucks to be you. I guess you didn't hear me when I said no." She's like, "Can you at least drive me part way?" No. These people are horrible. The best she will do is direct her to Old Man Haney's place, 5 miles up the road. Poor Delta's getting her steps in today. At the farm, Sam realizes that he's very much screwed himself by scaring Gus so badly. So he tries to be gentle and reason with him, but Gus isn't having it. He runs away in fear. He's like hiding behind the the wall right inside the house, and he's like so upset, and he's begging for his mom to come back. I feel so bad for him. So Delta makes it to Old Man Haney's place, or as you might know him, the preacher from Rock Ridge. Did you recognize him?
oh, yes, he was.
Yeah.
Matthew,
Matthew,
Mark, Luke,
Mark,
and
Luke,
Duck.
and Duck. Um, she explains everything to him. He's not at all bothered. He's like, "Well, I can't drive. I can't see real good. My son-in-laws do all the driving." His son-in-laws, who are creepily watching from the window. She's like, "Well, can I buy your truck off you?" And he's like, "You can't afford it." Nobody gives a shit about the dying man. He says he'll sell it to her for 1K because people just walk around with that on them, especially in the 70s. She offers him her wedding ring. She says it's an antique. And he's like, "Well, call me a soft heart. I guess you can have the truck." Ugh,
And so
I hate these
legally, she's
people.
now married to him.
I guess so. I didn't think of it that
I
way.
guess.
Back in the barn, Sam wrestles with himself. He's arguing with himself back and forth and concedes that maybe it is his imagination and the crick isn't doing anything at all. Then he starts having a flashback in black and white uh, to being a child and walking with the previously mentioned hired hand that his family locked in the barn because of his rabies bite. And they're walking in like a very somber funeral procession line. It's like, geez. He seems to be the guy, I think his name's Griffey, seems to be speaking directly to Sam as he is now, and he's speaking back to his memories as if he were a child. Um, Little Sam told Griffey not to worry, grandmother will come and heal you. Of course, when grandma shows up, she tries to clean him up with water, and he's like, "Get it away from me!" And grandma's next plan is leeches, and I'm like, "What?" And I'm trying to think of what time in history this would be, but I feel like it was past the leeches stage. What?
A little bit.
Yeah. What? Okay. Anyway, he remembers Griffey breaking free from the barn and making a run for it into the woods. Grandma yells, "Someone stop him!" And then someone, probably Sam's dad, shoots him in the back. Guess that was the only way out. Um, End of memory. Sam says Grandma can't fool him. Maybe, and then he's like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have brought my family out here." And I'm like, "Do you think, Sam? Do you think it was a bad idea to bring your family out here?" So back in Haney's truck, Delta is stopped by four men who accuse her of stealing the truck. She's like, "No, I traded my ring for it." They're like, "Well, you don't got a bill of sale. We don't believe you." And she quickly figures out these are his son-in-laws. They are scamming her. They got her ring, and now they're going to get the truck back. Assholes. Everyone in this movie is an asshole. Um, She manages to get away from them, but she does lose the truck. So she's back on foot. Sam has another flashback, this time in color, back in Chicago when he was just another working stiff. He clocks out of his job. Delta picks him up, and he's happy because his union just got a great contract. And then Delta, so we can blame her for this too, says, "Remember that farm you wanted in Oregon? Let's buy it." She's like, "I'm a teacher. I can teach Gus myself." And I'm like, okay, so he won't have any friends or socialization outside of his parents. Great. That's great. That's really good for him. And he's just like, "Baby, you're the best. Let's do it. Nothing could possibly go wrong." Back in the present, Sam starts trying to dig the pole out from the ground. Gus comes back out, and Sam tries a different tactic. He's like, let's just relax until your mom gets back. Let's build a fire. Go ahead, son. Get all the stuff we need, including an axe." And Gus is like, "Okie dokie, Dad." He does end up leaving the axe just out of Sam's reach. He manages to get a hold of it and starts chopping away at the pole. Of course, Gus hears this. He runs back. He's like, "No, Dad, stop." And then the head of the axe snaps off, goes out of the circle. So Sam or Gus grabs it, runs off. Sam keeps digging and he finds a pretty good sized rock in the dirt and just starts beating the chain. It is now dark. Delta is still walking, and who should happen to pick her up? Mr. Millard, bitchy wife's husband. Then it starts raining. He seems nice enough at first, but then he starts telling her, I ain't running a taxi service, and you don't expect me to give you this ride for free. I'm risking my life. I wouldn't do that. I've already got one mistress, and I've had me a lot of women. I'm a student of nature." He stops the car and tries to sexually assault her. It, People in Oregon, let's just, people talk a lot of shit about Florida. I think Oregon's the state we need to just get rid of.
Okay. And the trope of small town, uneducated, um, hicks who are out to scam you and sexually assault you is too thick in this movie. We needed
Very
some
much so.
decent people, but every person she runs into is worse than the last. And also, that ugly dude did not have a lot of women. His
Oh, no.
wife was average looking, and that's as best as he's going to do. He was lucky to have his wife, even though she was a cold bitch. Yeah, this guy was not suave and good looking. I'll put it that way.
No. Yeah, I was definitely thinking, I'm like, man, this movie, the stereotyping of rural people, it's bad.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
bad. Anyway, Delta manages to fight him off and gets out of the car. He chases her. She stumbles into a creek and just starts screaming for help. And then he suddenly stops and watches her. And then she says, "Fine, just take me. Get it over with. But when you're done, you either need to kill me or drive me into town." And for some reason, he's like, "I respect you now. I will give you a ride without raping you." Which was a really bizarre, and I don't think that would happen in real life, but
Well,
okay.
I do because when she stood up for herself, he no longer saw her as a woman. Well, that's a very penis owning thing to say. I now respect that. I am no longer sexually attracted to you.
I
Get your
guess.
big dong in the car and let's go.
um, um, so back in the barn, Sam is still trying to free himself when he hears a rumbling outside. And he knows that the water has broken loose and it's coming down. Gus is still frozen in fear just inside the house and is screaming for his dad to stop. Delta and the would-be rapist come across a downed power line that's kind of jumping on the road, and he's like, "Oh, we can't go past that. No." And she's like, "No, we can. We you just need to time it right." She's begging him to keep going. He does, and they make it through. Finally, at the house, Sam breaks through the chains and in slow motion runs from the barn toward the house. Gus screams and shuts the front door on him, but that doesn't stop Sam, who just dives through the front window instead, glass and all. Then we see the water rushing down the mountains, and then it fades to black. The next morning, Delta is in a helicopter with a doctor in tow, and the whole area is indeed quite flooded. And in addition to the Millards, I hope the Haney men died too. Just
Yeah,
wipe out this whole town.
except for the lady on the roof.
Yes, yes, she was nice. And then, then even the pilot's like, I don't see anyone. Let's turn around. So she is once again in a position begging someone to just help her.
Yeah, in any rescue situation, they don't have just one helicopter. They're gonna do a massive deal here, especially with flooded farms and everything. They're gonna it's gonna be a huge undertaking to go save people and find people, so on and so
Yeah,
forth.
that's a good point. I'm
But
sure they're
you've
not
got
the
this
only
one guy
people.
in the
Yeah.
helicopter with the doctor. Nope, don't see him. Let's go back.
And also, I want to say I'm so glad they made Gus stay behind for all that for the chickens who most certainly drowned and are now dead. So cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Finally, they spot Gus on top of an unflooded hill, and he's trying to flag them down. The house and the barn are mostly flooded. You can still see the roofs are above the water, but they land. Delta runs to hug her son. And then Sam comes around the corner and they all embrace and they try to explain to each other what happened, but it doesn't really matter. We'll just need therapy for the rest of our lives. And then the doctor comes into frame and he's like, "No worries, we'll get you to a hospital and fix up this rabies situation. All's well that ends well." Like, okay. You haven't even examined him, but okay. Um, Sam takes a look at their ruined home and says it was just a dream. All we have left is a couple of jars of string beans. And Delta says, "Well, after we get the house back into shape, I guess I'll have to do a lot more canning." And he says, "You're really something." They kiss, board the helicopter, and take off. The end.
Okay. I wanted her to say, "You're right. This is a mess. We're going back to Chicago, whether you got
Yes.
rabies or not, because there are some real effed up people around here that I don't want for my neighbors. And by the
Right?
way, in Chicago, we can have a phone."
A phone and
Yes.
mechanics.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I read about this movie years ago and I couldn't find it at the time. And then I just looked for it a couple weeks ago and it was finally on YouTube and I was like, "Oh yeah, I can finally watch this." So I was very excited I finally got a chance to see this.
Do you think that I watched this as a child? Do you think I saw a repeat, or was this the first time I had seen this?
First time.
It's the first time. I did not know it existed, and it's weird because I'm kind of a George Kennedy fan, and I did not know that this was in his catalog. You give this a classic or a trash it?
I'm not gonna lie, I actually really did like it despite the problem, so I'm gonna give it a classic.
Oh, I got to give it a trash it. I This was one of the weakest stories we had covered. What saves it is, well, when you compare it to The Last Dinosaur, it was a weak story plus terrible acting and terrible special effects. The acting was fine in this. There were really no special effects besides water, and that's not too difficult to do. Well, the skunk was a stupid special effect, in the
Yeah.
flashback. But I could not, I could not buy any of it. First of all, knowing how rabies works to a degree, the incubation period can sometimes be months to a year. It
Mhm.
You don't know when it will kick in. And he is right. If you if it's past the incubation period, your chances of survival are almost zero. And I mean it's less than 1%. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I
So
did know that once symptoms start, oh, sorry.
yeah. So at the end where he's like, oh yeah, you've had it for a few weeks, but come on, we're gonna go fix you up. I'm thinking, no, if this thing is out of incubation, he's gonna die. So anyway, I gotta give it a trash it. But I
Well, that's all fair. I don't know. I just liked it. I really like George Kennedy and Joanna Pettit. I think their performances are good enough to carry it through. And it
yeah,
was one of the shorter ones. It was one of the 75-minute ones, not one of the like 2 hour ones we sometimes get.
yeah. I did like the acting, I thought, and Lee Montgomery was very good in this, and I thought he was very good in Burn Offerings.
Hmm.
So the kid was a really good actor and
He was
believable.
good. Yeah.
Um, the I the hillbillies, whatever they were that they encountered, it just was like if they could have cleaned that up a little bit and not had to be such a stereotype that got worse the more people they she met, it may have been a little bit better. But by the time
Yeah,
when he pulls up there and he's like, yeah, I'm not gonna give this to you for free. I got women all over me. You're lucky. I'm thinking, come
right.
on, dude, you are ugly. So
Yeah, yeah, that was like, even if okay, I like this rural life. We've got a bunch of thieves and rapists for neighbors. We're other farm, maybe. No, I don't want my son anywhere near these other men being influenced by them, you know?
yeah, yeah.
God.
And besides, could you imagine the money they're gonna have to spend to take him 100 miles to the nearest town for psychiatric treatment, like 3 times a week? Yeah, you have screwed this kid up. But anyway, so next week I'm kind of excited to do this one because um I watched a video not long ago on Netflix that talked about this movie and the controversy surrounding it. So I'll get into it next week. But next week we are going to do the 1989 movie, The Karen Carpenter Story, and it is on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
So for those of you who don't know who Karen Carpenter was, she was the better half of the Carpenters, the one that sang
Yes.
like a songbird. So we're gonna do that next week. So join us
Sounds
then.
good.
Well, thank you for joining us. We shall see you next week.